Hi, welcome to this, my 91st episode of VideoFuzzy. I'm your host, Terry J. Aman, sifting my basket of media memories, and in this installment, titled The Prisoner, I talk about the 2009 AMC reboot of that odd 1960s puzzle box, also comments on The Closer, Medium, Murders in Venice, Fargo, and The End of the World, and in video outreach, I explore my folks' media collection. Welcome to the show. He doesn't have that on video, does he? We'll find out together on VideoFuzzy. Heading into 2024, I just want to appreciate you for checking in with me about my media collection and how it's going. I was hoping to have another entry out by now for my VideoFuzzy The Soundtrack collection. There's a song in the next set that would have been a perfect highlight, so just a sneak peek, if I share it here. I'll get that one written up for real once things calm down a bit around here. If I cannot bring you comfort, then at least I bring you hope, for nothing is more precious than the time we share, and so we almost learn from small misfortunes and count the blessings that are real. Let the bells ring out for Christmas at the closing of the year. Let the bells ring out for Christmas at the closing of the year. Happy everything and all the absolute best for 2024. Let's do this. And now, VideoFuzzy presents Fuzzy Feature. Okay, for nearly a month now, I've been trying to figure out how to talk to you all about AMC's 2009 remake of The Prisoner, that wackadoo surrealist late 60s production that posited a bizarre open-plan prison for one or maybe hundreds, but focused like a laser on one inmate in particular, number 6. The remake ran as a 6-part miniseries, this one following James Caviezel around as a perpetually perplexed number 6, apparent inmate to Sir Ian McKellan as Mr. Fishoder, number 2. It's archived in my collection on discs 1530, 1531, 1532, 1544, and 1545. I thought about drawing parallels, which is a non-starter because I haven't seen the original in its entirety for a good long while. I thought about per episode recap of the remake, which I haven't quite closely rewatched the miniseries and prepping for this. I certainly invested the lion's share of my time, but I've been surviving the holidays and everything that means now. I auditioned for a show I really wanted to be a part of but did not make the cut. I've been on the road visiting friends and still cannot shake feeling remote and isolated, and this episode has faced more than usually insurmountable difficulties willing itself into existence. It is December 24th, Christmas Eve, just the two of us here. Tonight we'll enjoy my husband's delicious fry bread, we'll drive around looking at people's Christmas lights and watch something called 8-Bit Christmas, which sounds like exactly the right amount of ridiculous. I'll finish writing this up and deal with the probable verb tense issues during my editing process. What I can't seem to do is justice to this 14-year-old work of speculative nonsense, because that is what this is. The first 5 installments raise all these tantalizing, evocative questions, and the 6th installment tries answering them, but really it can't. Nothing can truly parallel the original, because this one, the stakes are non-existent. In the original, number 6 had been some technocrat spy from probably MI6, resigned his position with a lot of bluster, was gassed and then kidnapped from his home by, at that time the uniform was unquestionably that of an undertaker, wakes up in a goofy village and his adventures continue from there. In the remake, he's a higher-level functionary for the surveillance firm Sumacor. He pulls into the parking garage, runs up the down escalator, and spray paints the word resign on presumably his office window while his colleagues look on in wonder. But when we do see his interaction with them in flashbacks, the office setting we witness is something quite a bit further throwback and steampunk, modern from the perspective of the 80s, perhaps, with wooden paneling and twitchy-eyed assistants, using equipment similar to what we saw in the dream sequences of Inception to spy on the entire world, and then once he leaves, it's like they've still got operatives following him around and spying on him, and he's surprised to discover that this is the case. I don't know what Semicorn does, and I don't know what number 6's precise function there, but apparently his last day he met with a Mr. Curtis. By now we'd come to know him as number 2, and Mr. Curtis is explaining something. I don't know how time is working here exactly, but feels like he's explaining what the village is. His catatonic wife, he said, studied the subconscious and created the village in her mind, was its first resident, in fact, and it's to help overwhelmed and stressed out people deal with that. Okay, so in the story of this show, a woman who, we're told, explored the depths of human subconscious more than most of us, determined there's a dream world she could create and sustain and somehow share. In this world, she and her husband could hire someone to be their son and proceed to torture him by imposing a bunch of heteronormative socialization on him and, recruit someone to take over and establish a better version of the village by having him figure that out for himself. Am I understanding this right? For the prisoner to work in this case, the prison is the inside of someone else's mind. At least Fringe needed a hyperbaric chamber and electrodes to establish a shared dreamscape between two people. Never mind the potentially thousands of people this woman, Mrs. Curtis, was managing inside her own head, popping in and out like a cocktail party, lorded over by Mr. Curtis, number 2, who went about imposing his version of order and bothering everyone else about how they all needed to be. Number 6, the first encounter we see him have with the prison is an inmate attempting to escape. The inmate, number 93, is what's known as a dreamer who imagines a world beyond the prison. Well, number 6 is too, and so are lots of inmates because they remember the life they're pulled out of to be in this, God, you can't even call it quaint, village. Despite it being entirely imaginary, it's also a bleak utilitarian bloscape in the desert. The nurse consult he meets at the hospital, number 313, tells him to just accept this reality, as does number 2 himself, pulling him into his office for a visit before sending him on his way. People do have their jobs, though. Number 6 is apparently a tour bus driver, along with his brother, number 16, why not? Well, that was emotional manipulation to give viewers a tour of the village and get number 6 invested in the construct. By the end of the second episode, despite insisting all the while to the contrary, despite his family receiving a reward for helping, number 16 was swearing to number 6 that he was never his brother. It was all a lie, and he and his family were forced to pretend, at which point it looks like his family is turning into laughing pigs in front of him. So, yeah, this is all perfectly normal. Number 6 is then approached by number 909, an investigator, about joining a spy cell to investigate a teacher, number 1955. This is so on the nose, the sort of work he had been doing for Semicor, that he's maybe a little too good at it, but when number 1955 sees the pinhole camera number 6 installed in his home, he pulls a knife across his throat in a suicide attempt, or possible attempt to escape. There's a sort of unnervingly nonchalant attitude towards death in this show. Number 2 wanders around handing out hand grenades. Search parties fire on villagers they're deployed to recover, and diners just blow up sometimes, and when giant sinkholes start opening around the village, people fall in, and villagers are assured it's just an atmospheric disturbance. Get some pet pigs, they're told. They'll solve the problems. Some households get 2 pigs. Well, some households become pigs. It's not the pigs. And while all this is going on, there are side plots, like number 909, the agent who approached number 6 about becoming a spy. Number 909 falls in love with number 2's son, number 1112. That is, the boy hired to be his son. We learn in the final episode that Mr. Curtis and his wife, Helen, were never able to conceive, so in the village they have a boy, 1112, who number 2 is pressuring to date girls and who doesn't seem all that interested in him. Number 6 has his own romantic subplot, not with 313, not exactly, but when number 6 is out here having his flashbacks of consensus reality, working for Semicor, right after he resigned, he was approached by Lucy, a beautiful stranger he meets in a cafe who wiggles her way into his life and his home, tries to investigate him, and subsequently blows up. Well, he encounters her in the village. She's number 415, and she's Well, this is perfect. The match-em-up protocol in the village sets him up on a blind date with her, and she's blind. He's shocked to see her because, well, she's Lucy and she exploded. She assures him that she's lived in the village all her life. They go out a few times, and by the end of the episode they are affianced. They're getting married, and she makes a run for it because, like everything else in the village, just like New York, she's part of a pressure campaign, number 6. She takes off running in her wedding dress and falls down one of the sinkholes. Number 6 starts having vivid memories about his final day at Summercore, how he met with the Curtises, the driver took him over there, the cabbie in the village, and then offered to take over the village, the control he would wield over the subconscious realities of thousands and perhaps millions of people, he and 313 together. Oh yes, 313 is stark raving mad in our reality. In the village, she's a medical professional. The final scene is number 2 killing himself with a hand grenade, and number 6 overlooking a desert with number 313, a single tear running down her face, imagining that new world they could create. How? I saw the surveillance installation Summercore was working with out here in the real world, not bound up in whatever collective subconscious we've apparently learned how to manipulate in a construct called the village, but how do you maintain millions of minds in a self-sustaining shared reality that is not the Matrix or VR or otherwise heavily reliant on technology? I'm currently working my way through Ready Player 2, and it's sort of a massive multiplayer immersive reality. At least in that universe, everyone had to have some kind of tech to participate. The village, as we encounter it, is a catatonic middle-aged woman who has created a world in her mind, one in which she can communicate with her husband, number 2, and gotten a bunch of other people to participate in somehow, even pretend to be people they're not, so as to manipulate a surveillance officer to sign on, perpetuate, and ultimately run the place. And despite the reluctance he expresses throughout, final scene closes with him and, oh hey, soulmate now, planning out how to do it. What the hell was I just watching? In the 1960s, the exploration of the psychedelic and surreal had a pop culture analog with a counterculture goofiness making people question the sanity of the world they're waking up in every day. In the late aughts, we were rightly paranoid about the civil rights we were foregoing in the name of safety and what we could perceive of the forces behind the scene hard at work, perhaps not all in our best interests. The tagline for the remake, "You only think you're free," is projection. No aspect of the village in the remake makes sense. Everything is arid, beige, lacking in history. The final episode, where new homes are being built for newcomers, raises its own objection. If the village is all that there is, well, from whence these ought to be stays? All of number 6's exploration of the space bore out his suspicion that there was a world beyond the village, the universe with all its stars, the ocean and the towers beyond the perimeter. All of it suggested a wider, more complicated world than was contained in the shopkeeper's folding map of the village, or roadways traveled by his tour bus, or cab driver number 147, or scraps of abandoned reality beyond the village, the old village station with its broken rails leading nowhere, and the mysterious anchor in the desert. And then we get to the final episode, and we're told all the tantalizing clues we've been poring over hungrily were for naught. It's just a lady, some lady dreaming a world we're all somehow in now. Mr. Curtis was tired of playing pretend, maybe tired of his wife hosting reality for hundreds, if not thousands, if not millions, if not billions of people, so he found another dupe to take it all on, convince him of some sense of obligation, maybe hopefully do better this time. See ya, and scene. Well, reality is a bit rough, what with environmental disasters and existential crises and burgeoning overpopulation, resource scarcity, and patent inability for anyone to get along because it is in the interests of the world's power brokers that we do not, and it's easier to convince us to mistrust others than to cooperate. Hence, a hyper-surveillant construct trafficking in confusion, mistrust, and enemy is easy enough to accept, and easy enough framework to lay in post the Patriot Act in a world we find ourselves in, and that we're prisoners of some sort, and back to the tagline that we only think we're free. I have pages of notes, but that feels like enough. It is a weird world to explore, but I've kind of been pummeled by reality this year. I guess I'm looking for my escapism to be a little less dystopic.
I associate many things with many things.
Cross connection. really short this time because I'm already annoyed by how long this episode has taken to write, and belated happy holidays, of course, but it feels like my Studio Murphy under-challenge. It's most easily answered by Sir Ian McKellan appearing in The Good Liar with Russell Tovey, Ryan Murphy's American Horror Story. I'm actually a little surprised it took even that many steps. This is a cast who appears all over my collection. Ruth Wilson is 313th Nurse Consult characters in Luther. I had Lenny James, Cabby, in Archer and Robot Chicken. Haley Atwell played Lucy in number 415. Agent Peggy Carter in all the Marvel movies, and Vincent Regan as number 909, the spy and number 2's son's love interest, showed up in Hustle and Marple and MI5. He was in Snow White and the Huntsman. He was in Poirot and also in a Luther project. And what I was noticing about this cast is they're often showing up in each other's projects. You had the big names, James Caviezel and Ian McKellan, and the cast fleshed out of people who've been in lots of things, lots of them in my collection, but more often removed from mystical centrality. I scrolled through the one-episoders and found that while number 16 played the guy's brother who made an appearance in Warehouse 13, none of their names stood out to me as locking the show in any closer than McKellan's link. Which, let's not dismiss, Sir Ian McKellan has appeared in a million things. Solid franchise credentials, Doctor Who, Lord of the Rings, X-Men. Good Lord, right there we've got Ryan Murphy links through Famke Janssen and Nip Tuck and Evan Peters in American Horror Story, Halle Berry and Catwoman with Frances Conroy, also of American Horror Story, as well as 6 Feet Under. So, yeah, not that tough a trace at all. Diving into my classic collection. My classic VHS DVD collection this time covered discs 1526 to 1550, and along with the Prisoner reboot, contained several auspicious finds I will not be spending anything like enough time with, but running the highlights, I mentioned the closer up there. This set included the pilot episode of that TNT series up in disc 1527. I enjoyed Kira Sedgwick's creation of this character, Chief Brenda Lee Johnson, the beautiful woman dismissed early on by her team members as Scarlett O'Hara for her pronounced Georgia accent, which helped establish her presence as an outsider. The title character is called the Closer because her interrogations get confessions that hold up in court. What we see uncovered during crime scene investigations and follow-up interviews fuels the energy she brings to the interview room. I was able to spend some time with this production in the cataloging process and enjoyed the complex, detail-oriented writing. The resolution sometimes hinged a little too entirely on connections she made because some seemingly unrelated thing was going on in her life at that specific moment. She solved the case, which is weird for someone as analytical as this character, but it makes for fun viewing. There was a cross-connection I had for this one. I'll just include it here. Stanek Hayek, Detective Kate Beckett in the ABC series Castle, shows up as a Russian mail-order bride in one of the episodes, which her accent work is perfect, but it was so much fun to hear that voice coming out of that person. This set of episodes also saw appearances by Tom Irwin, Richard Roundtree, Mark Feuerstein, and John Delancey. I also found the pilot episode of Medium and several first-season episodes. I like the way they introduced us to this story, this character, and the show. From the opening scene, Patricia Arquette's title character, Alison Dubois, could be experiencing any number of dead people quite clearly all of the time in her day-to-day life. Her life put her in contact with other psychics, police officers, the district attorney's office in Phoenix. She'd been completing her paralegal exam as we met her character, but continued as an assistant. While her presence in the district attorney's office was questioned, she, in that instance, used her gifts to savage the defense attorney with every shady thing he'd ever done, and there was a bunch. Otherwise established her as a more than usually resourceful housewife and individual doing her best to see justice gets done, mostly because the sufferers of injustice can get her attention about it. Fun show. This set of episodes I saw Margot Martindale from The Americans, Silas Weir-Mitchell from Prison Break, and Joey Slotnick from Nip Tuck. And since this is quite clearly where the rest of my cross-connections wandered off to, I encountered Kathy and Jimmy, Jolie Fisher, and Leslie Ann Warren in episodes of Desperate Housewives, Rupert Everett, Ian Hart, and Michael Fassbender in a PBS production of Sherlock Holmes in the Case of the Silk Stocking, and John Tenney of The Closer in an episode of Brothers and Sisters. So, yeah. I also found episodes of Missing featuring Vivica A. Fox and Katerina Scorsoni, a psychic FBI agent who helped locate missing persons on a show that ran from 2003 to 2006 on the Lifetime Network and changed its name halfway through from 1-800-MISSING to just Missing, and the probable reason they had to do that doesn't speak well for the viewing public. But the show was based on a Canadian series called 1-800-Where Are You?, so the American title they went with seems much more manageable by comparison. Beyond a 5th season episode of Criminal Minds centering on a pop star exploiting vampire lore to cultivate a goth following and a pop star going missing on a 2nd season episode of Missing, I'm otherwise not drawing a lot of parallels through this set, but I will say that the performance-based cold opens in both of those episodes was pretty cool. Comedy Central, I found the 1st season episodes of Drawn Together, which was intriguing and gross in about equal measure, but one of the fun cutaways was a peek at the MC Escher room where I think Toots Princess Clara bounced down endless staircases. I also enjoyed appearances by Norm Macdonald and Greg Giraldo in Comedy Central's Last Laugh 2004, Patton Oswalt's stand-up from 2004, and I found episodes of South Park and Aqua Teen Hunger Force wild. Checking out my current collection. Starting us out in my current direct-to-digital collection here. I'll start with the milestone. I just cataloged through disc X500, so woohoo! Anyway, when I highlighted Kenneth Branagh's Agatha Christie adaptations last time, I hadn't yet seen Haunting in Venice, and all reality, I couldn't have given it the attention it deserves. We've had 3 of these adaptations now: Murder on the Orient Express, Death on the Nile, and most recently, a Haunting in Venice. Venice is still new enough I don't want to spoil anything. 2 years post-World War II, Branagh's Hercule Poirot is a recluse, tucking himself away in the world's most beautiful city. His old friend, Tina Fey, as mystery novelist Ariadne Oliver, calls on him to take a break from his retirement to join her for a séance. A storied mansion on the canal was once an orphanage and was a mass murder. The stories told to a tour group highlight the tragic history of the home and how the children want the souls of more children to join them. One seems already to have done so. The daughter of a woman who lives there can't sell the place because of its tragic past. This eerie atmosphere thus established, the children in the tour group enjoy a party of games and prizes and bobbing for apples. Then a medium arrives en masque to conduct a séance, and Poirot's little grey cells begin to churn. The atmosphere of this case is significantly darker than the others. I'd characterize it as close as I'd seen to a horror film, though Christie can't absolutely tell spooky atmospheric tales. I'd say it's unusual to see one lean so far into the genre as this, but it's a fantastic story to do it with. I highly recommend it. What I said about Branagh stands, but his instincts for this production were dead on. I have been overwhelmed with excellent shows to watch and stream lately. Don't want to spoil anything, but I will say the latest TARDIS console upgrade should have sprung for that True Coat. Yep, Season 5 of Fargo is stuffed with references from the, I will take this opportunity to correct this, 1996 Coen Brothers film. Elsewhere I dated it to 1994, which was an error. Fraka at the school board fall planning session outside of Minneapolis in 2019 puts Juno Temple as Dot Lion, a very tense mama lion, in the middle of a free-for-all, and all her instincts for self-preservation kick in. She tases a teacher and then a police officer, which gets her arrested, and this is the main point, fingerprinted. She has fled an abusive situation in, it looks like, Stark County, which puts the county seat in Dickinson, and we're seeing one interesting take on the geography in that area. 2 hours to the west of Dickinson, we have the Badlands, but Dickinson is big enough, there's not one chance in hell the sheriff would be regarded as the king of Stark County. Show's got him interpreting the Constitution for us, and I know the mindset is out there, but Stark County is just too big for... They wanted to do something in Stark County in 2019. We're only a few years past when Dickinson State University was dinged for being a diploma mill and the president there resigning in disgrace. We don't really have a Gordon Call thing going on right there now. It's more of a Montana Justice Township type thing, Ruby Ridge or that thing out in Nevada. Could have the whole thing written exactly the same way, set it in Williston or Adams County or someplace. John Hamm is a hell of a lot of sheriff for one of those places, but his outsized personality could probably sway enough support to turn the whole county into theocratic monarchy like he seems to have done there at Stark. Something about chattel and ownership and honor in a woman's place and all that garbage, but it makes for some compelling storytelling. Jennifer Jason Leigh and David Foley are just fun characters, and I love the pragmatism of the federal officers assigned to oversee the firearms problem they've been having out there in this version. The John Hamm as Sheriff God Roy Tillman version of Stark County also caught a peek at Bismarck in this iteration. I don't recognize it, but it's not wrong. Yeah, always nice to be included, that's what I think. A Murder at the End of the World. I'm truly enjoying this AMC series. It's extraordinarily well written. It's got excellent suspense laid in, isolation in a remote location with strangers, hosted by Clive Owen as Annie Ronson, a wildly over-leveraged multi-billionaire prepper obsessed with alternate intelligence and robotics, versus Emma Corrin as Darby, a Gen Z hacker who grew up around her father's coroner practice, whose experiences tracking a serial killer with her boyfriend as a teen serves as the basis for her true crime bestseller Silver Doe, summoned along with tech and science luminaries to a location defiantly off the grid in Iceland, where one by one death by misadventure keeps happening. Atmosphere, pacing, not to mention Ray, the alternate intelligence assistant wired into the rooms but not connected to the internet, who records everything but somehow not the actual murders, and who's signaling who along the shoreline in the night. Well, as billed, it's a mystery, one after the Scandinavian thriller cast for more than just the setting, and one that reads way more and then there were none than Glass Onion to me, so I'm pretty sure I'm being misdirected and redirected and all will be revealed. It's a beautifully told and engaging story so far, and I'm loving it. The Doctor Who 60th anniversary specials. I want to spend more time on this when it's less December and Secret Santa's traveling all over the world. Seriously, this month is just busy, but I had to quick praise the writers for bringing across more than a decade's worth of storytelling so seamlessly. It's like the library scene with Donna Noble is Saved was way more recent in my head than it was in actual fact. They've been lovely, and I can't wait to spend a little more time on them, but in the meantime, absolutely recommend. Track them down. They're available on Disney Plus, along with now at least the first installment with new Dr. Shudigawa. Enjoy.
Video of.
I mentioned my father's passing last episode. We were moving some cabinets from their entertainment center ahead of the sale of their duplex recently when I encountered what remained of my dad's media collection, a couple dozen VHS tapes. The emotion I felt on seeing them was something close to wonder. I knew I heard my sister tossed most of their media when she was cleaning out the house because, as we discussed, the sum total of all human knowledge is available through Amazon for not that much should anyone want it. And frankly, in a world where no one is making VCRs anymore, the value of VHS media is diminishingly small. I'd still love to have had it, of course, beat me, but when I found this little overlooked stash, I was happy to recover what I did. Now, my Sanyo VCR I call Sonia didn't even want to play these things at first, which that might have just been it for this segment. Good night, everybody! Fortunately, when we were moving a cabinet in my mom's new place, there was no more room for the practically new, beautifully maintained VCR DVD player, and that came home with me as well. I plugged it in, and voila, I was able to view what remained of my dad's media collection. The first tape I pulled in was a Disney animation. In Duck to the Future, the wicked Magica de Spell sends Scrooge into the future and steals his magic dime. Then in Sir Gyro de Giraldo, Gyro travels back in time to Quackalot to meet King Artie. Nope. I cannot imagine how this drew their attention, but it's very cute. My next viewing was Bill Cosby's exclusive home video release from 1987 called Bill Cosby 49, an hour or so set talking about being middle-aged. He was 49 in 1987. My dad was just about exactly the same age then, and I'm sure the comedy resonated. I'm 53 now, and it definitely resonated with me. Bill Cosby starts out with some physical comedy regarding aches and pains, learning learning to listen to your body, making dad noises. He's Bill Cosby, he's a master of funny sounds, bemoaning the ravages of age. As he said, not too bad, but fat now tends to collect in undignified places. Then you've got the receding hairline, eyesight, bifocals, memory. Getting older sucks. Tell me about it. Most of my adult life I had a desk job. I quit smoking, started again, quit again, walked, swam, but generally was in poor health until I took on a couple of much more physical jobs in which I was moving, packing, loading, unloading heavy deliveries all over town. Now I'm up and down stairs, running equipment all over, lifting, carrying, delivering intake, bringing stock up and putting it away. No, I haven't swam in a while, but I still walk as much as I can every day. But yeah, decidedly older. I understand why this is in his collection. I'm not going to deny Bill Cosby's comic instincts. He was successful for reasons in the 80s were peak of his career, but oh wow, my dude. Big shining asterisk on this one. Don't do the thing and it won't be a thing, am I right? Brightly colored jewel-toned sweater over blonde dockers, completely on-brand, burgundy leather chair. Picture quality is pretty good for a VHS tape from, I swear to God, more than 3 decades ago, and no trouble hearing it apart from the low hum from the player. Along with Cause, the Great and Powerful, they had an hour-long set from 1998 Branson, Missouri favorite Yakov Smirnoff, American-born Ukrainian comedian. I bet you never looked at it that way. I remember his appearances on Night Court. Oh, I remember hearing about Richard Mall recently. That's sad. Actually, I have more thoughts about that than I had about the recent reboot of Night Court, also featuring John Larroquette, which I saw part of one episode and felt that was plenty. Yakov, I bet you never looked at it that way, is a goof. Clinton's sex jokes, Hillary jokes, Monica Lewinsky, Boris Yeltsin, wordplay misunderstandings, Russian versus U.S. dancing, his Only in America segment, David Letterman helped me fill out my citizenship application. It was for Iraq. He showed a clip where he worked with Meryl Streep and Jack Nicholson in the 1986 movie Heartburn, which also featured Stockard Channing, Catherine O'Hara, Mercedes Rules, and Kevin Spacey. It closed with a celebration of Sweet Lady Liberty. It was dated, but very sweet. Also from Branson. They did love their visits there. From Roy Clark's Celebrity Theater in Branson, Missouri, they had the 1994 release, Roy Clark Live from Branson. I hope this is the best you ever felt in your life, he said. Right now, it really ought to be. Mainly because we don't have a choice. Make this the best it ever was, and tomorrow will be twice as good. Words of wisdom from Roy. We got love, oh lonesome me, the tips of my fingers, thank God and Greyhound, if I had to do it all over again, and high-intensity string presentations of Somewhere My Love, Ghost Riders in the Sky, and Cuban-inspired Alleghenia. He's a great voice. Absolutely captured some fantastic performances. Yep, he talks about aging, although a lot of sexagenarians don't look like he does, and the cheesiness of the performance is only partially masked the astonishing musicality and talent range of these performers. It's 9-piece ensemble, and Roy lets everyone shine. It's kind of cool. I grew up watching him co-host Hee Haw and Buck Owens, and he still puts on a show. He left everyone with a message, nothing deep, and in no way suggesting they don't already do this, but first chance you get, he said, do something nice for someone. It doesn't take all that much. You could smile, say good day, hold a door open, and don't wait around for a thank you. You don't need it, because when you're alone, you're going to feel so good, and that's only part of it. Because of you, that person will go out and do something nice for someone else, and that person will do something nice for someone else, and it'll spread, and this whole world could wind up doing nice things for each other, and we could be the ones who start it. So let's start it. I've had a couple VHS tapes I bought for my folks when I was living and working in Bottineau, North Dakota. My local performer, Max native and longtime music instructor at Dakota College in Bottineau, Gordy Crazyfingers Lindquist, my manager, was super enthusiastic about him. Indeed, Gordy's a talented guy. The first one, dated 1993, is dedicated to his wife, Diane, and sons, Anthony and Ryan, and recorded in Boissevain, Manitoba on the White Kauai Baby Grand. It was filmed without an audience, and he alternated between performance and exposition. He opened with a jazzy version of Mary Had a Little Lamb. The show included marches, waltzes, classical, Tchaikovsky, Grieg, Mozart, ragtime, such old-time and contemporary pop entries as In the Mood, Boogie Woogie, Boogie, Bumble Boogie, and Music Box Dancer at Mockingbird Hill, closing with a dedication to his wife. You're 16, you're beautiful, and you're mine. He got a little acrobatic in his performance of Mozart, inspired by the movie Amadeus, playing upside down and backwards. He opened with some Mozart and then transitioned to a spirited performance of In the Mood, and you don't want to miss his floor concerto. Interesting he had to leave the country for that one. Camera work was all over the place. The second one is dated 1994, and I'm loving the 8-bit in-window credits JAM Productions Jim McKnight put together. Gordy's crowd work was up to the Lake Minigoshi Birchwood Lounge and Steakhouse, but his performance was outstanding. And I goof on the Steadicam, but nothing whatsoever wrong with the picture or sound quality in any of these, and the temperamental animatronic monkey who joined in would dance or not pretty much at will. He had no trouble being a big goof, and I think that was just wild fun. His sheet music shtick was hilarious, and when he put gloves on, it's like he became a big Muppet. It was still a hugely talented one. What he lost in accuracy, he made up for in energy, and he didn't even lose much of that. There was a sign he had up, "Please don't shoot the piano player, he's doing the best he can." His lounge act was a delightful mix of classical and operatic, ragtime, polka, old-timey pop classics, performance, and sing-alongs. He did Bach, Brahms, Rachmaninoff. He did Music Box Dancer, Roll Out the Barrel, Bumble Boogie, kinda, and Saber Dance. His reflective The Green, Green Grass of Home, closing with a medley of Texas songs and requests, including a rhapsodic presentation of The Sound of Silence and a shticky presentation of Yesterday. He didn't announce song titles all the time, and Shazam, honest to God, one of them was coming up as Coldplay. Nope. My inability to identify songs doesn't take away from his talented and, at times, comic presentation. Gordy Crazy Fingers Lindquist built to a seriously high-energy performance. Ironically enough, despite predating YouTube, this is one of the few I'm able to provide a direct link to. Most of the others are commercial releases you'll have to track down on your own, but Gordy posted a bunch of his stuff to his YouTube channel on Gordon Lindquist 2958. That'll be in my show notes. Well done, Gordy. Going through, I found a few home movies, which are sweet and fun to see. Also, has the commercial releases like Dances with Wolves, a colorized version of Miracle on 34th Street from Fox Video, and the Hanks DiCaprio version of Catch Me If You Can, which looks like it was probably a gift from me. The Video Magic rental in Minot sold used VHS tapes, and some of my collection absolutely came from there. Then I come to Play Piano Overnight, dated from 1987. The first 3 minutes were selling the viewer the video cassette they'd clearly already purchased. Then concert pianist Patty Carlson walks viewers through getting comfortable making music, or at least chords. She renames all the white keys as numbers and then names chords, the third and fifth after that number. For instance, she starts with calling C 1 and plays a C major chord and calls it a 1 chord. She plays a D minor chord and calls it a 2 chord, and so on. You know what? Building a comfort level with the instrument is a perfectly valid introduction to a person who's never touched or seen a piano before, completely ignoring the black keys or the relationship between chords and scales beyond just a chord is every other white key and they're all numbers now. I guess you could start simply and build in complexity. No point did she say she was teaching music theory or anything beyond just playing the piano, which I suppose you can define as pressing keys and sound comes out. She calls an octave a new age stretch, which already has a name. You already used it. It's called an octave. We also learned finger patterns and then improvisation, building melodic lines and building coordination between the two hands to create music. She actually said, you'll want to concentrate on your left hand because the right hand can play any white key and it'll sound okay. Really? You don't even differentiate between major and minor. Oh, never mind. 15 minutes in, she'd gotten us reasonably comfortable with the kind of chord progressions that could support noodling away as background noise at a piano lounge. She had invited viewers to improvise freely, to speak with her music, and she got to sort of simple classical styling. Actually kind of impressed. Be more impressed if they were playing music as well as she was playing it overnight, per the marketing. But your ability to play will increase by the amount of time you play. Well, no lies detected. But more important than anything, enjoy yourself. Certainly. But not to put too fine a point on it, of the two people who would ever see this, my mom already could. just fine. No problems whatsoever with her piano playing, especially when this came out in 1987. Oh well, it's a video and it was in their collection. My folks had a counseling tape for building communication skills between newlyweds from the Aid Association for Lutherans called Together Forever, which, when this came out in 1997, they already had been. They had a 15-minute tape about heart attack warning signs called It's About Time. They had a 1-hour dream vacation guide for Hawaii from 1985, which I think is about when my grandparents went for their anniversary, or late 70s, then about. And then they had an 8-minute video called The Continuing Journey called Hope, outlining expansion needs for the 2 locations of their church home in Fargo. They had a couple of specials with violin virtuoso Shoji Tabuchi, The Wonder of Christmas, and Fiddlin' Around. Not much to say about them, except that Tabuchi's put on a heck of a show. Also, The Sights and Sounds of Christmas from 1986 with The Christmas Messenger by Reader's Digest from 1975. They had several Christian-themed VHS tapes, mostly holiday music. They had a 2-hour 1999 release from Reader's Digest called King of Kings, a musical celebration of the life and land of Jesus, with more than 36 carols, anthems, and other hymns tracing the story of Christ over live-action dramatizations, art, and video attributed to locations in the Holy Land. They had about an hour-long Life and the Word evangelist Joyce Meyer's presentation, Think Before You Speak. I think this was one of the earlier ones where I was still tuning in myself, mostly in the late 90s when I was working Devil's Lake and I was up before the sun. This looks to be from that era. We're supposed to build each other up, not tear each other down, Meyer said, and God help us to think before we speak. I watched her for years. I thought she had a pretty powerful message and point of view for a good long while, speaking from scripture about ordinary people improving their day-to-day lives. It was good to reconnect with some of this earlier stuff from hers and their collection. A very conversational, personable approach with worthwhile, thought-provoking messaging. Having heard some of her more recent stuff, it's decidedly preferable, but I walked away from most of that style of proselytizing years ago anyway. Mostly it's just a nice window on the kinds of shows they liked enough to hold on to pull up and enjoy when they wanted to watch something in particular, and some to just look at and wonder, I can't say that there were any real surprises. The Duckburg Disney cartoon stood out a little, but generally it's exactly the sort of media that they'd buy for each other and enjoy. It's kind of neat to go through that. And with that, I think it's well past time to get this in the feed. Thanks to all of you for checking in on my video cataloging project. You can check out my catalog listing along with audio links at VideoFuzzy.blogspot.com. And for past episodes, add, subscribe, follow VideoFuzzy everywhere your podcast. If you get a chance, check out my VideoFuzzy soundtrack entries as well. That one is having a tough time finding its audience, so please share those around as the spirit moves. Feedback is always appreciated. You can contact me through my blog and podcast sites via email to tjam1970@yahoo.com or through my VideoFuzzy pages on Facebook, Instagram, or Threads. For VideoFuzzy, I'm Terry J. Aman. Happy viewing. It might be amazing, it might just be scuzzy. We'll find out together on VideoFuzzy.